The dugout was barely lit, and it felt almost warm. Not truly warm, nothing in the trench ever was, but warmer than the wind that scraped along the parapet above. A candle guttered in a jam jar, throwing long, tired shadows against timber braced with damp earth. Somewhere overhead, boots thudded along the fire step. Down below, the war felt momentarily distant. Private Thomas Hale crouched beside a dented mess tin, balanced over a small, carefully shielded flame. The stew inside trembled and burped, thin as rainwater, but smelling faintly of onion and something pretending to be beef. Corporal Finch sat opposite him on an ammunition crate, sleeves rolled, helmet tipped back. Two other lads from their section squeezed in beside them. Miller, who swore he'd been a baker before the war, and Davies, who claimed he'd once seen the sea and never stopped talking about it. "Stir it proper," Miller said, eyeing Thomas critically. "You'll scorch the bottom." "It's mostly water," Thomas replied. "Water burns," Miller insisted. Finch gave a quiet chuckle. "Everything burns if you leave it long enough." The stew thickened just enough to suggest ambition. Thomas passed around chipped tins, portioning it carefully. No one complained about the size. Complaints were for daylight. For a while, they ate in silence. The scrape of spoons loud in the small space. Davies broke first. "Back home, my mum makes a lamb stew. Proper thick, leaves the spoon standing up straight." Thomas smiled faintly. "My mum's got a kettle that sings before it boils. Same note every time. You could set your watch by it." Finch leaned back against the dirt wall. "There's a pub near mine," he said. "Low beams. Fire always going. Landlord keeps a dog that thinks it owns the place. Best pint you'll ever have." "Better than this?" Miller asked, holding up his tin. Finch examined it thoughtfully. "Just about." They laughed, softly, careful not to let it travel too far. Laughter in a trench felt fragile, like glassware in a storm. Thomas watched the candlelight flicker across their faces. Without helmets and rifles in hand, they looked younger, or perhaps older. It was hard to tell. Mud blurred the edges of age. "First thing you'll do," Davies said, pointing his spoon at each of them in turn. "When this is all done?" "Sleep," Miller said instantly. "A pint of beer," Finch answered. Thomas thought for a moment. Above them, a shell boomed in the distance, dull and uninterested. "I'll sit in the garden," he said at last, "and listen for that kettle." The stew pot emptied. Miller scraped the bottom with exaggerated care, declaring it a triumph of culinary science. Finch pinched out the flame, and the dugout settled back into shadow and damp. For a few minutes more they remained there, shoulders brushing in the cramped earth shelter, speaking of ordinary things, of fields and dogs and sea air and singing kettles. Outside, the guns muttered and the night pressed close. But inside the dugout, with a shared pot and shared memories, the war loosened its grip just enough to let them breathe.